The unexpected attack, 800 words. The SS Hope drifted peacefully through the silent expanse of space, its engines humming a steady rhythm as it glided toward its next destination. The hospital ship was a symbol of Earth's commitment to peace, a floating sanctuary for the wounded and the sick. On board, doctors, nurses, and medics worked tirelessly, tending to soldiers who had survived the brutal war on the distant battlefields. It was a place of healing, a rare island of compassion amidst the chaos of interstellar conflict. The crew was used to the quiet routine, the calm atmosphere that made it easy to forget the war that raged so far away. Captain Sarah Jensen stood on the bridge, looking out at the stars through the viewports. She had been with the SS Hope for years, and though her heart ached for the soldiers they treated, she found peace in knowing she was helping to heal the wounds of war, even if only for a short while. The ship was nearing its next stop, a small colony on the edge of human space. It was meant to be a routine mission, nothing out of the ordinary. Suddenly, the quiet was shattered by a shrill alarm. The sound echoed through the ship, slicing through the calm like a knife. Captain Jensen's heart skipped a beat. She rushed to her station, her eyes scanning the control panels. The crew around her scrambled to their stations, their faces full of confusion and concern. This wasn't part of the plan. The SS Hope wasn't a military vessel. It wasn't meant to face combat. They were here to heal, not to fight. "Captain, we've detected multiple unidentified ships approaching at high speed." Lieutenant Miles, the communications officer, called out. His voice was steady, but there was an edge of fear in it. The screens flashed red, showing the approaching fleet. "Are they friendly?" Captain Jensen asked, her voice tight with uncertainty. "We've tried hailing them, Captain, but they aren't responding," Miles replied. "They're too close. They're not acting like any fleet we've encountered before." Captain Jensen's mind raced. She had read reports of alien species that had crossed into human space, but there was never any hint of hostility. Most of them had been neutral, if not downright friendly. But this was different. She could feel the tension building in the air as the alien ships loomed closer, their shapes dark and menacing against the stars. "Prepare the ship for evasive maneuvers," Captain Jensen ordered. "Get the medical bays secured. I want every crew member at their posts." Now, the ship's engines roared to life as the SS Hope tried to move out of the path of the incoming alien fleet. But it was too late. The first wave of enemy ships fired their weapons, their energy blasts striking the hospital ship with terrifying force. The SS Hope shook violently as the blast hit its shields, the sound of metal creaking filling the air. Captain Jensen's grip tightened on the console as another explosion rocked the ship. "Shields at 50%. Lieutenant Miles shouted, his voice filled with alarm. "Return fire," Captain Jensen commanded. "Activate the defense systems." But the SS Hope wasn't equipped for this kind of battle. Its defense systems were meant to protect it from stray debris, not alien warships. The weapons that had been designed to protect the ship's medical equipment were useless against the overwhelming firepower of the invaders. A second wave of missiles slammed into the ship, and the lights flickered, plunging the bridge into darkness for a brief moment. The crew struggled to maintain control as another blast struck, sending them all stumbling. Captain Jensen's heart raced in her chest. She had seen battles before, but never like this. Never on a hospital ship. The ship's communication system crackled to life again, but it was not a message of hope. Instead, the voice that came through the speakers was distorted and harsh, a guttural growl from an alien tongue. "Prepare to surrender, human," the voice hissed through the static. "This ship is ours now." Captain Jensen's eyes narrowed. She clenched her fists, her resolve hardening. The aliens had underestimated humanity. They had no idea who they were dealing with. "We're not going down without a fight," she muttered to herself. "Captain," Lieutenant Miles called urgently. "The enemy ships are locking on with boarding pods. We're about to be boarded." The crew's panic was palpable as the first boarding pods detached from the enemy ships and raced toward the SS Hope. The ship was in chaos now, the once calm corridors filling with the sounds of shouting crew members and the distant thud of enemy forces preparing to invade. Captain Jensen's mind raced. They had to hold the line. This wasn't just about surviving, it was about sending a message. Prepare for close quarters combat, Captain Jensen ordered. We will defend this ship, no matter the cost. Our mission is to save lives, not to be taken down like this. But even as she spoke those words, she knew that the situation was dire. The SS Hope was not a warship. It was a symbol of peace, and right now, that symbol was under attack. It was a battle they hadn't been prepared for. The crew scrambled to take defensive positions, the sound of their boots echoing in the hallways. Tension hung thick in the air as the boarding pods landed, and the crew braced for the worst. Captain Jensen took one last look at the stars through the viewports. The calm they had once known was gone. There was only chaos ahead. But the captain's mind was clear. Earth would not go down without a fight. The SS Hope would show these aliens exactly what humanity was capable of. As the first alien boarding party breached the ship's hull, Captain Jensen took a deep breath, ready for what came next. The battle for the SS Hope was just beginning. Earth reacts. 800 words. The SS Hope was bleeding. Its hull was punctured in several places, the emergency lights casting an eerie red glow across the bridge. Crew members, their faces pale with fear, struggled to keep the ship from falling apart as it fought for survival. Captain Jensen stood at the helm, her mind racing. The ship wasn't just under attack, it was being torn apart. As the enemy boarding pods made their way through the ship, it became clear that this wasn't just a random raid. The alien forces had come prepared. They knew what they were doing. They knew the SS Hope wasn't a military vessel. It was a hospital ship, meant to heal, not to fight. But what the invaders hadn't accounted for was the fierce spirit of humanity. Captain Jensen's eyes burned with determination. This attack would not stand. Earth would strike back. But first, they had to survive. Report. She barked at Lieutenant Miles, her voice cutting through the chaos. We've lost contact with several decks, Captain. The outer hull is breached in multiple places. We're evacuating the non-essential personnel to the inner sectors. But the aliens are moving fast, Miles said, his voice strained but steady. We need to hold them off until help arrives, Captain Jensen muttered, her mind calculating their options. But there were no immediate reinforcements coming. The SS Hope was alone, stranded in deep space with no way to call for backup. They had been in the middle of a routine mission when the attack occurred, far from any major fleet or military outpost. The nearest Earth defense forces would take hours, maybe even days, to arrive. By then, it might be too late. As Captain Jensen stared at the flickering monitors, she heard a low rumble in the distance. Her hand tightened on the console. It wasn't just a noise. It was the unmistakable sound of alien engines, the heavy vibrations of their ships moving closer. They're preparing for a full assault, Jensen said grimly. We need a plan, and we need it now. Lieutenant Miles looked to his station, his fingers flying across the controls, but he shook his head in frustration. There's nothing we can do, Captain. The Hope isn't equipped for this. If we try to fight, we'll only get ourselves killed. Then we won't fight, Captain Jensen said, her voice hardening with resolve. We'll survive. A cold silence fell over the bridge as the crew absorbed her words. Surviving wasn't just about holding the line. It was about outsmarting the enemy, outlasting them until help arrived. It was about showing the aliens that humans were far more resilient than they had ever imagined. The captain's mind snapped into action. She turned to the tactical officer, Ensign Keller, who had been working furiously on the ship's remaining systems. Can we disable their communications or scramble their targeting systems? Captain Jensen asked. Keller looked up, his eyes wide with hope. We can try. We have an experimental jamming device on board, designed for low-level defense. It's not much, but it might buy us some time. Do it, Captain Jensen ordered. We need to disrupt their communications long enough for Earth's forces to get here. Keller worked quickly, his fingers moving with practiced speed. The room was tense, the seconds ticking by like hours. The SS Hope had become a battleground, the fate of its crew hanging in the balance. But Captain Jensen had always been a leader, and she wasn't about to let this be the end of their story. As Keller activated the jamming device, a faint hum filled the room, followed by a series of crackling sounds over the intercom. The ship's systems were far from perfect, but the alien fleet had been knocked off balance. Their communications became garbled, their targeting systems malfunctioning. For the first time since the attack began, that SS Hope had a chance. It wasn't much, but it was enough. "Now we wait," Captain Jensen said, her voice steady despite the fear running through her veins. "We'll use every second of this." The next few hours felt like an eternity. The crew continued to fight back as best as they could, barricading the lower levels where the aliens had boarded. They used every weapon, every tool at their disposal, but it wasn't enough. The SS Hope was losing ground. Meanwhile, back on Earth, chaos had erupted. The news of the attack on the SS Hope spread like wildfire, and it wasn't long before Earth's military leaders were in full crisis mode. The SS Hope was a symbol of peace, of the human commitment to protect and heal, and now it had been assaulted by an alien force. It was an attack on everything that humanity stood for. General Andrew Harding, a veteran of countless battles, stood in the command center of Earth's military headquarters, his eyes fixed on the large digital map displaying the coordinates of the SS Hope. The attack had come out of nowhere, a brutal surprise strike that had caught Earth's forces off guard. But General Harding was not one to panic. He had seen worse, and he knew Earth's military would respond swiftly. "Alert all available fleets," he ordered, his voice low and authoritative. "The SS Hope needs backup. We're going to give them all the help they need, and we're going to make those aliens regret ever laying a hand on our ship." He turned to his staff. "Scramble all interceptors. I want the first wave of ships in the air within the hour. We're going to hit them hard and fast. They'll never see us coming." As General Harding gave the orders, the first wave of Earth's ships began their journey into the depths of space, their engines roaring as they prepared to confront the alien invaders head-on. Earth's military might was finally moving, but it was still hours away from reaching the SS Hope. Until then, Captain Jensen and her crew would have to hold on. Survive, no matter what. In deep space, the alien forces advanced, unaware that Earth's vengeance was already on its way. A deadly counterattack. 800 words. The SS Hope groaned under the pressure of the relentless alien assault. The sound of explosions echoed through the halls as the alien invaders continued their rampage. Despite their overwhelming numbers and advanced technology, the crew of the SS Hope held their ground, using every resource they could muster to resist. Captain Jensen paced the bridge, her mind sharp, her eyes never leaving the view screen as the alien ships circled their damaged vessel. "We've done all we can here," Lieutenant Miles said, his voice tense. "We need to move fast if we're going to survive." Captain Jensen turned to him, her face grim but determined. "We're not leaving. We're not running. We'll fight until Earth's forces arrive." She knew they were outgunned, outmatched. The SS Hope was a hospital ship, not designed for combat. But that didn't matter now. What mattered was that Earth's fleet was on its way, and they had to survive long enough for help to reach them. Her fingers drummed against the console as she considered their options. "Lieutenant," she said after a moment, "is the jamming device still working?" Miles glanced at the screen. "Yes, but it's beginning to fade. Their fleet is adjusting. It won't last much longer." Jensen's mind raced. She had to think of something. The alien forces were too powerful to confront directly. But maybe, just maybe, she could outsmart them. "We need to lead them into a trap," she said, her voice low and intense. "If we can lure their fleet into a weak sector of our defense grid, we might be able to disable their ships long enough to buy some time." A wave of disbelief washed over the crew. They had no real weaponry, No shield strong enough to withstand a full-scale alien attack. But Jensen's plan wasn't about fighting. It was about using the environment against them, turning their advantage into a disadvantage. I'm not going to lie, Jensen continued, meeting their eyes with unflinching resolve. This plan is risky. We won't have much time before they realize what we're doing. But if we don't try, we're all dead. The crew hesitated for a moment, then nodded. They trusted their captain. They had no choice but to believe in her. Ensign Keller, Captain Jensen called out, can we manipulate the ship's power systems? Can we make the weaker sectors appear more vulnerable than they are? Keller's fingers flew over the console. Yes, Captain. We can simulate a power failure in the lower decks and use the ship's communications to broadcast a distress signal. If we're lucky, they'll fall for it. Jensen nodded. Do it. We're going to make them think we're a sitting duck. The crew worked quickly, redirecting power from the ship's upper decks to simulate an emergency. They used the SS Hope's communication systems to broadcast a distress signal, urging the aliens to take advantage of the apparent vulnerability. The plan wasn't flawless, but it was their only shot. With a prayer, they activated the trap. Moments later, the alien fleet responded. The communications officer reported a sudden surge in activity on the alien ship's frequencies. They were responding to the bait. We've got their attention, Lieutenant Miles said, his voice tight with excitement. They're moving toward the weak sector. Captain Jensen held her breath as the alien ships maneuvered toward the simulated breach in the SS Hope's defenses. The crew had set their trap. Now it was up to them to spring it. Hold steady, Jensen ordered. Wait for the right moment. The tension on the bridge was suffocating. Every second felt like an eternity. The crew had no way of knowing if their plan would succeed. If the aliens caught on before they could strike, it would be the end. There would be no second chances. Then, without warning, the SS Hope lurched violently as the alien fleet moved into position. It was time. Now, Captain Jensen shouted. In an instant, the ship's hidden weapon systems, still operational despite the damage, powered up. Energy weapons fired from concealed turrets, hitting the alien ships with precision strikes. The alien fleet, caught off guard by the unexpected defense, stumbled, their shields flickering under the intense fire. The crew of the SS Hope cheered as the first alien ship exploded, its hull breaking apart in a fiery ball of light. But there was no time to celebrate. The enemy was regaining their footing, already adjusting their strategy. The trap had worked, but it hadn't been enough. Captain, they're adapting too quickly, Lieutenant Miles warned. They're returning fire. Jensen's heart sank as the SS Hope was struck once more. The ship groaned as another powerful blast tore into its side. The impact rattled the crew, knocking some of them to the floor. Damage report, Captain Jensen demanded, her voice rising above the chaos. We're losing power in sections of Deck 3, Captain, Ensign Keller shouted. Shields are down to 20%. We're still in this fight, Jensen said through gritted teeth. We need to keep them distracted long enough for Earth's fleet to get here. Get ready for another round of fire. We'll use their overconfidence against them. Jensen's mind raced as she watched the alien fleet regrouping. The SS Hope might be battered and broken, but it wasn't finished yet. The fight was far from over. She knew Earth's forces were coming, but she couldn't afford to wait. Every second counted. As the SS Hope fired again, its weapon systems struggling to maintain power, Captain Jensen knew they were playing a dangerous game. The enemy was relentless, but so were they. And just when the crew thought they couldn't hold on any longer, the stars outside the viewports began to shift. Earth's reinforcements had arrived. The tide of the battle was about to turn. But it wasn't over yet. The alien forces would soon face the full wrath of Earth's military, and they would learn the hard way that humanity never surrendered. Earth's fleet is here, Lieutenant Miles said, his voice filled with relief. They're coming in fast. Jensen smiled grimly. Let's finish this. The final stand. 800 words. The distant stars outside the SS Hope seemed to shimmer with the promise of salvation. The roar of Earth's fleet was deafening as their ships ripped through space toward the embattled hospital vessel. But as Captain Jensen watched the advancing enemy ships, she knew that the battle was far from over. They had only bought themselves a little time, but it was all they needed to survive this hellish encounter. Target locked. Lieutenant Miles called out, his eyes fixed on the glowing alien vessels that loomed ever closer. The enemy was retreating to regroup, but they were far from defeated. The aliens, though shaken, had not given up. They were planning their own final counterattack. The SS Hope, though damaged, still had a few surprises left. Its energy weapons, though weak, could still do some damage, and the medical personnel had turned the ship's defensive systems into a makeshift arsenal. But even the most determined crew couldn't outlast the alien forces forever. It would come down to this final stand. Humanity against the unknown, a desperate attempt to push back an enemy that had already shown its savagery. "Brace yourselves," Captain Jensen said, her voice steady, yet her heart pounded with anticipation. She could feel the crew's fear, but also their resolve. There was no choice now. They had to fight. As the enemy ships drew closer, a sense of unity began to settle over the bridge. They had been through so much, and they had nothing left to lose. But what they did have was hope. The reinforcements were here, and Earth's finest warriors would show no mercy to those who dared attack one of their own. "Captain," Lieutenant Miles shouted, his voice laced with urgency, "Earth's fleet has arrived. Right on time. The enemy is being flanked." Jensen's heart surged with hope as she turned to face the viewports once more. The lead Earth battleships, the Retribution and Warhawk, emerged from the darkness, their cannons primed and ready. The firepower was immense. It was a sight to behold. Each ship like a massive beast, barreling through space, eager for the fight. For a brief moment, it almost seemed like the SS Hope was a part of something much larger, something bigger than itself. The alien fleet, still reeling from the surprise attack, scrambled to adjust. But it was too late. Earth's reinforcements had arrived with full force. A coordinated assault rained down on the alien invaders, and the SS Hope fired again, using every ounce of its remaining power to support the oncoming strike. The first volley from Earth's warships slammed into the alien fleet with a deafening explosion, creating a shower of debris. But the aliens weren't done yet. They retaliated with a barrage of energy missiles, targeting the SS Hope once more. This time, however, Earth's fleet was too close for them to have a chance. The SS Hope didn't stand alone anymore. "Target their command ships," Captain Jensen shouted, her voice full of fire. "Take them out now." The Earth forces responded with deadly precision. Massive energy blasts tore through the alien ships, leaving glowing trails of destruction in their wake. Explosions erupted in the dark void of space as one alien ship after another was obliterated. Jensen watched in grim satisfaction as the first of the alien command ships disintegrated under the barrage. But the battle wasn't over. The remaining alien forces regrouped, focusing their fire on the closest Earth vessels. The Retribution shuddered as it took a direct hit. Sparks flew from its hull, and the massive warship veered to the side. But Earth's forces didn't falter. They retaliated with even more force. "Hold steady," Jensen commanded, gripping the armrest of her chair. "This is it." The next moments felt like slow motion. The remaining alien ships, though now smaller in number, fought with all the savagery they had shown in the initial attack. They had underestimated humanity's resilience, and now they would pay the price. The aliens attempted to break through Earth's line, but the human ships surrounded them, closing in from all directions. "Captain, we've got one last enemy ship remaining," Ensign Keller reported. His voice was strained but hopeful. "It's preparing for a suicide run, heading straight for us." Jensen's heart raced. The final ship was a massive dreadnought, its hull thick with armor and firepower. It would take everything to stop it, but there was no other option. The SS Hope was in its path, and if it got too close, it would destroy the hospital ship in one final strike. "Get ready," Jensen yelled. "All weapons, all systems, fire everything we've got." The remaining energy weapons on the SS Hope flared to life, and for the first time, the ship seemed to come alive in the heat of battle. The blast struck the dreadnought, but it barely seemed to slow it down. The alien ship pressed forward, relentless in its charge. Just as the dreadnought neared the SS Hope, Earth's fleet launched a devastating salvo of missiles. The Retribution and Warhawk fired at the same time, sending out a coordinated barrage of energy blasts that tore through the alien ship's shields. The final blow came as a powerful beam from the Retribution's main cannon collided with the dreadnought's core, causing a massive explosion. The blast ripped through the alien ship, sending it spiraling into space, burning up as it was consumed by the firestorm. "Direct hit. The enemy is finished," Lieutenant Miles shouted, a cheer rising from the crew as they watched the final alien ship crumble into nothingness. Captain Jensen leaned back in her chair, exhaling deeply. Her hands shook from the intensity of the battle, but she felt a weight lift from her chest. Earth's forces had done it. They had won. However, there was no joy in the victory. The SS Hope was battered and broken, its crew weary and injured, but they had survived. "We did it," Jensen whispered, more to herself than to anyone else. "We held the line." The battle had ended. But as the stars outside the viewports shifted back into peaceful order, Captain Jensen knew this was just the beginning of a new chapter. Earth had faced its darkest hour, and humanity had emerged victorious. But the war, true peace, was still a distant hope. "We'll rebuild," she said softly, staring out at the vast emptiness of space. "And we'll be ready." The SS Hope drifted, its hull scared but unbroken, a symbol of the resilience and strength of humanity, its crew forever marked by the battle they had fought. The universe would never forget Earth's wrath. Earth's vengeance is complete. 800 words. The battle had been won, but the cost was evident in every corner of the SS Hope. Its hull, once a shining beacon of peace and compassion, was now a testament to human resilience and sacrifice. Scorched metal and cracked walls told the story of the chaos they had survived. The ship was still alive, but barely. The crew, battered and bruised, had fought not only for their survival but for the message Earth would send to the stars. Humanity will never kneel. Captain Jensen stood in the silent bridge, the quiet after the storm almost overwhelming. The rumble of the engines was the only sound, and even that seemed to hum with the last remaining energy the SS Hope could muster. The screens that had once been filled with images of stars and peaceful medical care now displayed damage reports and system failures. "Report, Ensign," Jensen said, her voice hoarse but determined. "We've sustained severe damage to several key systems, Captain," Ensign Keller reported, tapping furiously at his console. "But we've stabilized the core and life support. We can still move, though it'll be slow." Jensen nodded. "How's the crew?" "Most are injured but stable. A few fatalities. Our medical staff did what they could. The rest are either in recovery or in need of evacuation," Keller replied, his voice grim. The captain felt a pang in her chest. They had lost good people, brave men and women who had sacrificed everything. But they had fought with honor. Their sacrifice wouldn't be in vain. Earth would rebuild, but more importantly, the universe would now know that humanity had the strength to face any enemy, no matter how powerful. Captain Jensen took a deep breath, looking out at the stars through the viewports. Earth's fleet, now in formation around the SS Hope, had already begun cleaning up the aftermath of the battle. The Retribution and Warhawk were there, their mighty guns now silent, their crews surveying the wreckage of the alien fleet. One by one, the remaining enemy ships had been broken down, their burning husks drifting into space. "Captain, Earth Command is calling," Lieutenant Miles said, his voice drawing her attention back to the bridge. Jensen straightened herself and took the call, her face hardening as she looked at the screen. General Harding, the commander of Earth's forces, appeared on the monitor, his stern face framed by the chaos of the military command center behind him. "Captain Jensen," General Harding said, his voice low but filled with pride. "I just received the full report. You and your crew showed extraordinary courage. You turned the tide of this battle. And for that, Earth is eternally grateful." "Thank you, General," Jensen replied, trying to keep her voice steady despite the overwhelming exhaustion creeping in. "But the battle is over, and the cost has been high. The SS Hope is damaged beyond repair, and we've lost many good people." The general nodded solemnly. "We'll send a salvage crew to recover what we can. The loss of the Hope is tragic, but the message you've sent is invaluable. The aliens thought they could destroy us, weaken us. Instead, they've learned a hard lesson. Earth will never be brought to its knees." "Do you think they'll come again?" Captain Jensen asked, her voice quiet but filled with a burning uncertainty. The battle had been won, but she knew the universe was vast, and humanity had just proven it was willing to fight for its place in it. General Harding paused for a long moment. "They might. But Earth's message has been made clear. Anyone who dares attack us will face the wrath of a united human race. We will rebuild, we will grow stronger, and we will never forget the sacrifices of the SS Hope." The captain felt a knot of relief loosen in her chest. Earth was united. But more importantly, humanity had proven something to itself. It would stand firm against any enemy. "We're ready to begin our journey home, General," Captain Jensen said, her voice strong again. "We'll carry on their memory." Harding nodded. "We'll be waiting for you." The call ended, and the bridge fell silent. The crew exchanged looks, tired, some filled with sadness, others with a quiet resolve. But there was one thing they all shared. They had survived, and humanity had sent a clear message. The SS Hope began to move slowly, its engines sputtering but still alive. Earth's fleet continued to guard them, the massive warships maintaining a protective perimeter around the battered hospital ship as they headed toward Earth. The journey would be long, but the hope of returning home filled the crew's hearts with purpose. As they drifted further from the site of the battle, Captain Jensen allowed herself a moment of peace. They had survived against impossible odds. They had faced an overwhelming enemy and emerged victorious. But the scars of war were still fresh, and Earth's enemies would never forget this lesson. The universe had just learned what humanity was capable of when pushed to the brink. There would be no more underestimating humans, no more thinking that Earth was just a small, vulnerable planet lost in the vastness of space. Earth was a force to be reckoned with. Captain Jensen stood in front of the viewports once more, watching as the stars glimmered in the distance. The battle was over, but the war, humanity's war for its place in the galaxy, was just beginning, and Earth's vengeance, swift and decisive, had only just begun. "We'll rebuild," Captain Jensen said quietly to herself, her eyes filled with determination. "And we'll be ready." The SS Hope continued its journey back to Earth, a symbol of resilience, unity, and the indomitable spirit of humanity. The message was clear. The universe would now know that Earth would fight for its survival, and that anyone who threatened it would face a wrath unlike any they had ever seen before.